So, Tim, welcome back to F.A.C.E.
Hey Dale, good to be back, mate. How you doing?
How you doing? How you doing? How are things across the pond for you?
Yeah, not bad at all, mate. Can't complain. Can't complain. Keeping me markets keep me entertained.
Okay, so let's see what's entertaining you. Maybe you could share your screen here, and we could talk about what's on your radar. And I know you're a position trader, and I'm sure you've had a nice run in crypto.
Yeah, not too much in the crypto, to be honest, mate. Just
Really?
a small,
Okay.
yeah, small one. I've got to be honest. At the moment, I'm a bit all over the place with what I'm actually with how I'm sort of thinking about the markets.
Okay.
Because you just got to go with the flow, but at the same time, it's pretty hard to add into a lot of this with the this sort of euphoria with confidence at the moment. No.
Have you ever seen more rampant speculation
No,
in your
I
career?
haven't, mate. I haven't.
Yeah. Okay.
No, first time I've been at this since 2016, and obviously I've not seen anything much like this, and I missed the crypto run the first time as well.
Yeah. Okay. So what are you seeing here in Canada? Is this just a bearish formation, this little bounce, and we're headed lower with a weaker
Well,
dollar?
yeah, I mean this is something that we're sort of studying at the moment, trying to figure out what's likely, because we've had all this rhetoric obviously until last week with central banks being
Yeah.
very hawkish and everything. But obviously they've come out now and sort of talked that down a bit, and obviously the Bank of England had a bit of a shocker with the way they communicated it. Although if you read between the lines, I think you could have actually there were quite a few clues in there where it was quite conditional, and they were talking about inflation expectations, and there was a few bits that made it not quite as clear cut as perhaps some of the media coverage would have had you believe. So
Okay.
I think we're now moving into the kind of more of a period of uncertainty in terms of the path for central banks, or the timing of the path for central banks, and perhaps we're going to open up more of that divergence between countries again, which really we need.
All right. So are you paying attention to the little mini drama as far as renominating Powell here, or Brainerd, or any feelings on what how the markets would receive Powell not being reappointed?
Yeah, I mean, I still think
Bearish
Powell will,
dollar or
but I
bullish?
don't know that it would be necessarily for the dollar.
Okay.
I think at the moment I'm actually sort of looking, zooming out further. I look at it as more of a dollar positive picture, the bigger picture. And I think that this sort of thing with Powell and Brainerd will probably end up being I think it'll be a non-event. And even if she were to take the role, I think markets would digest it quite quickly, because at the end of the day, the policy isn't going to change too much. Much as people sort of want to say that it will, I think Powell's been quite clear on his messaging. I know plenty will disagree with me there.
Okay.
But
Well,
but
then
yeah, I think
let me ask you this. So, all right. So
oh,
I think you're sounding like, we're on the verge of some type of shift, instead of the dollar being a debate between the bulls and the bears, that there's going to be some convincing um, price action in favor of the dollar. Am I reading you correctly? That's what
I'm
you're
cautiously leaning that way, Dale. Yes,
Okay.
that's where I'm.
Well, you
Where I'm
know
heading.
what, Tim? You know what I am?
There yet.
I,
We're not
I'm
quite got
strongly neutral.
the
Beat that
strongly
one.
neutral. Brilliant,
Have you
mate.
ever
That's
been strongly neutral?
always. It's a great hedge.
Here, let me do a little CNBC analysis on the Canadian. That should the Canadian take out the red trend line right here, it
Yeah,
could sell off unless it reverses and closes back over the dotted line. And if that happens, the rally may continue unless it fails.
exactly that. You're
Trade
perfect.
that.
That's it. 100% strike rate on that kind of trading.
Yeah. Anyway, how that's actionable stuff. So, when I look at Canada, I mean, it almost looks pretty bearish to me that there's going to be at least another wave down. Is that what you're thinking here? And you're wrong over 25?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm looking at here is I'm thinking we're actually going to get more of a push up over time. Now, this is where it's sort of
Okay,
where we take more of a macro perspective, as you know,
right.
and look more towards the fundamentals and try and game it all out and figure out what's going on. And one thing that we noticed is, you know, with the Canadian economy, they've just got such an enormous debt load. I think it's something like the non. Hang on, I'm trying to remember what this was. So the non-financial sector to GDP ratio is 350%.
Oh my God. What's the
Right?
US? 200?
Um,
180?
no, yeah, lower. It's in the hundreds, much lower.
Oh, okay. All right.
And obviously, what that means for Canada is like this idea that any central bank, I have to say, but you know, even you know, Canada was obviously one of the leaders because of their situation
Yeah.
economically. That everyone was saying, oh, they're going to hike rates, they're going to hike rates. It's going to be a fast hiking cycle. But in
They can't
reality, when you've
afford to.
got
The government would go
exactly
bankrupt, right?
Exactly. Well, certainly, you know, I don't know whether the government would, but certainly a lot of people would feel the pain. You know, let's put it that way. And obviously, that's a central bank that's raising interest rates and putting that pain deliberately on the economy. Which you know, people say that politics doesn't come into central banking, but I'd argue against that. Without a doubt, there's a political consideration at all times, even if perhaps there's not a formal policy behind it.
Do you consider the Canadian dollar a petrocurrency?
Sporadically.
Okay, so that means yeah, that means you're strongly neutral about that. Okay, so
Well,
yes,
no, it comes
it
and goes,
connects.
doesn't it? It
No, it
comes and
connects
goes.
and disconnects, is what you're saying.
Exactly. There's times when
Because
it sort of moves absolutely in lockstep with oil, and other
yeah,
times when it doesn't. And I think perhaps that connection is going to continue to fade. You know, with the with Trudeau's attitude to oil and the oil and gas industry, and you know, it's become oil itself in terms of the actual the production of it's become much less of an importance to the Canadian economy. But there's still a lot of industry that's connected to it. So
okay.
it's sort of, I think sometimes that it's a slightly different connection from just the oil price. I think some of it is also down to the refining and everything else that goes with it.
Well, Canada's had a very hot property market. DJ's pointing out one of the members here in F.A.C.E, and he's talking about that being a risk to Canada.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean,
but
and
that's a
again, though,
risk everywhere. I mean, the U.S.,
yeah,
uh, Europe have those kind of real estate markets that have become parabolic, and it's not happening now. But you know, people come in with cash over the listed price, and you can't even, you know, squeezing out more marginal buyers.
yeah, exactly. And actually, I mean, properties, I think, is going to be a massive topic for the future, you know, in general, you know, because obviously we've got this huge problem over in the West with the sort of affordability and, you know, and the social issues that come with that. As well as, I mean, I think the one thing that people compare this to the previous sort of property boom, but I don't think it's the same purely because of where rates are, which again I think is another reason why rates won't go up excessively from these levels. Is purely because you know, property underpins the wealth of the world, and obviously if a lot of that is, I suppose, if you want to say, propped up perhaps by speculation and by all of these things, then obviously it gets to a point where it's too much, which we saw in 2008. But I don't think we're quite there now. You know, the ratios and things in terms of the leverage is much lower than it was then, and you haven't got
Okay.
the credit default and all that sort of stuff going on in the background. But over in China, on the other hand, I still think that's got a long way to play out, and I think it's very hard to say what that means for the world. But I don't think it's going to be positive for global growth for sure. I think that
Okay,
property
so
situation is just going to weigh.
I've been asking people this. Do you recall in the markets in 2008, when we were in the Great Recession? Everyone said, well, China wasn't affected. They didn't hold a lot of toxic paper. They're
Hmm.
still growing, and they're going to help pull the rest of the world out of recession. And
Yep.
now that what Xi has embarked on, if they could pull us out of recession, can't they put us into one?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the dynamics are slightly different, but you know, because obviously what they provided was a kind of a surplus. You know, they were a surplus nation. They took trade from the rest of the world at a time when our own sort of economies were struggling. Whereas now, you know, we've obviously turned that, we sort of relied on China as this sort of global factory. And
Yeah.
aside from their property thing, that they don't want necessarily to be certainly the global factor at the same point in that manufacturing chain that they were before. They want to kind of move up and try and get more equality for their own people and kind of move up that value chain as well, so that they can increase their sort of consumer purchasing power at home. But it's not working, and obviously with the property side of things as well, with the kind of, because I lived through all this boom all the boom in 2008 here. I lived in Spain, doing estate agency, and I saw it all coming up then. And there's a lot of parallels, the way that everyone was speculating just wildly on property and this kind of sub economy that emerged out of it. It's the same thing that you're hearing with the stories in China. So that underpins how people feel about how wealthy they are and how much they're going to spend, and obviously all of their behavior is impacted by that feeling. So China's definitely a massive risk for the future, but because of they're still closed off from the rest of the world largely, in terms of financial system and everything. It's probably not going to be a direct financial problem. It's going to be more of something that's just going to be an ongoing, I think I'd probably categorize it as a drag, call it an ongoing drag on global growth, because of what China's going to have to do. And there's always the possibility of a shock. They devalued the yuan back in 2015, I think it was, wasn't it?
Right.
You can't put anything past them.
Yeah, so I'm thinking if anything like that happens, it's not till after the Beijing Olympics in February.
I would agree with that. Yes. Yeah.
All right. So do you have is there anything you have a high conviction level on going into year end? Bullish dollar, bearish dollar, metals have been acting pretty good. You have a view on gold or silver here, Tim?
Yeah, I do quite like the way that gold's looking at the moment, because of the way that real rates are trading. Obviously inflation's up. Yeah, inflation's up, and I think inflation as well. It's still going to be hot tomorrow, so I expect that to continue for a little while longer. And obviously, if central banks, particularly the Fed, aren't going to react, then that will keep those real rates negative, which should be good for gold. And it's coming up to that level there at 1834. That's the area that I've really got marked out for the next push. I think that could, we could definitely see it moving on. Obviously, if we get to a point where central banks do panic, and particularly the Fed, obviously because of the dollar, if they do start panicking and trying to get ahead of inflation, then obviously that's going to be negative gold, and back down we go.
Okay. I appreciate that view. What's your business model, Tim? Are you on Twitter because you're looking for people to follow you, or do you offer a newsletter or some type of trading room? What is your business model? I can't recall.
Yeah, no, we've got a bit of everything. So the kind of the goal basically is to bring the fundamental analysis into sort of everyday analysis, everyday terms, because I think a lot of people get lost in the complexity of it. They think it's a lot more, the economics and how economics impacts the world is a lot more complex than it really is. And obviously markets, I believe, is the best way to understand the world, basically. And we try and bring it all together to people in sort of simple everyday language that they can understand, see what's going on, the kind of things that are driving certain moves, and they can add that analysis into whatever their own trading style is. We don't advocate for any particular trading style. I know that you have guys on that use all sorts. And then we provide a newsletter, a daily newsletter. We provide premium content as well, which is sort of more in depth.
You want to show your website? You want to show your website?
Yeah. Okay, so
macrodesiac, and what is that? It's not an aphrodisiac. So, what's macrodesiac mean?
Yeah, it was a little bit inspired by aphrodisiac. It's the love of macro and.
Oh, okay. You're a romantic guy, idea. Tim.
Yeah, it was David actually. You see David here on the screen, David Bell. That I.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, so David started it, and I joined him a few months later.
Oh, okay.
I was originally a subscriber, and it just grew from there, to be honest.
All right, so this is your page, and the website is macrodesiac.com.
Yes, exactly.
What's Elon up to? Tell us.
Our general conclusion there is that nobody knows for sure, but he's probably just
He
trying.
wanted he wanted to buy the dip Monday morning.
I don't even know if it's that. There's a lot of theories about his stock as well that he needs to. He's got a tax bill coming. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
heard about. Yeah, and
Oh.
he's got to try and get some stock out, and it's a better look if he can do it for the people.
Well, you know what? In
You know?
his case, Tim, and
Yeah.
hardly anyone talks about it. With all the government money that was given to him to develop Tesla and
Yeah.
other things,
100% agree.
major government subsidies that most of us would never get a handout like that from the government.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's finally going to pay back in. How about that?
I agree with you there, mate, for sure.
No.
But then you always
Yeah,
can move on to the next angle, can't you? About
yeah,
would that money be well spent by the government?
yeah,
You know?
yeah. We'll see. Parabolic there in Tesla. So
Yeah.
Tim, I asked this. I've asked Schwager this. What's the most important advice you could give traders? One line. Most important advice.
One line. Stay humble.
Oh, beautiful. All right. Well, pride before the fall. Our humble
Absolutely.
guest, Tim Vollans. And Tim, my trading warrior brothers, thanks again. And just, give me your best call. Where would you buy USDCAD? You were showing that chart for about 15 minutes.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I'm watching it here. To be honest, I mean, I think this is a good area to have a good try for a crack higher.
Okay.
You've got a nice little invalidation here. If it breaks through the support line, breaks through the trend line, then you've got to think, okay, it's probably going to go lower. But if you can hold it, then I think there's good, good scope to move up into the 126 handle.
Okay. So thank you, Tim. Great,
No problem at all,
great
Dale.
talking
Pleasure.
to you. It's always interesting to talk to you, and I hope you enjoy yourself when you're here.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Because a lot of people stuck around to hear you. So thank you very much, Tim.
Thanks, guys.
And, you could follow Tim, go to his website, read his stuff, and his Twitter handle is VolaTim. Okay, at VolaTim. So thank you, everyone. Good luck for the rest of Turnaround Tuesday. I just want to check something out here. Let's see. Yeah, the Dow's trying to come back. Okay, I'm going to be patient, see if we could get that third drive, and that's going to be a wrap. Don't just count your pips, Tim. Count your blessings. Thanks for being with us here today. And that's a wrap, everyone. You could join the team in 25 minutes for the morning edge. Adios. And just find something to be grateful for, and you can't be depressed. That's Dr. Dale Freud telling you to find something you're grateful for today. See you, Paul. Thank you. See you, Laura, Anthony. Adios, everyone.
Hey traders, this is Blake Morrow with ForexAnalytix. Thanks for stopping by our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like these videos, share them, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the content that we provide here for free. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you in the next video.